has a very special announcement.
Good morning. Jim Bradshaw and Rick Treychalk approached the board of directors for the National Security Foundation and asked us to consider establishing an endowed scholarship at the University of Nevada, Reno, in the honor of Ty Cobb. We all thought that was a great idea. And the credit really does go to Jim and Rick to initiate it, but there are already donors that have come to the table. Thank you all to help us establish this endowment in your name. And anybody that's interested in there, in being included in this endowed scholarship to the University of Nevada, Reno, please contact Randy in the back. This will be not with NSF, but it will be with the University of Nevada Foundation in honor of Ty Cobb.
Ty, would you please applause for somebody who has given his all to national security?
Thank you, Marie. Well, I really appreciate it and how much we've grown, Annie and Maureen, since the days we met at the Good and Slobber, or the Gold and Silver, down the street. And 5 or 10 of us getting together. I think that was about 20 to 25 years ago. And I'm so pleased to see the way the National Security Forum has grown, the attendance we have at our meetings, the subject matter that's seriously discussed. And it's a tribute to everyone here. And for that and that memory, thank you.
Thank you, Ty. We are indebted for all your service. We're honored that Ty not only served this country for many, many years, established the National Security Forum, but now in his honor, we will have the next generation of national security students. So anybody who wants to participate in it, please see Randy or talk to any of us after the program. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Caleb Cage. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Caleb Cage, yeah, who's way shorter than he is. Caleb is called me, unfortunately, one day last week and was directed that he was going to be chancellor for the day today. So the chancellor of the Nevada System of Higher Education sent him off to sub in for him. So Caleb very quickly turned the reins over to his friend and cohort, Donald Stockton, who is, I guess they've known each other for a long time, went to high school together, and Donald is a very apt substitute on this topic. So with that, I'm not going to introduce Donald because he's going to introduce himself. And with that, we'll start our program. Thank you.
All right, good morning. Maureen, thank you for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to a group like yours. The NSF is an audience that we would always love to get a little bit closer to. All right, might have to hold that one. There we go. Is that better? All right. So, yeah, Caleb is definitely a guy who's got big shoes to fill. So I'll do my best, and I'll start by, again, introducing myself. My name is Donald Stockton. I'm a program specialist for the VA Sierra Nevada healthcare system. If anybody doesn't know, that's the long form name for the VA hospital here in town. I'm a Navy veteran. Go Navy, beat Army. I served 4 years active duty from 2000 to 2004, and then spent some time out, and then re-enlisted in the Navy Reserve from 2008 to 2016. I served on board the USS Anzio in support of the invasion of Iraq in 2003, and then I deployed again with Naval Mobile Construction Battalion 18, go Seabees, in 2010 in support of the troop surge at that time. Again, I mentioned I was a program specialist for the VA, and my role now is to specialize in providing services to students on campus and to assist them in getting enrolled in VA healthcare. This position has given me an opportunity to work with many outstanding individuals and groups that provide services to our community. Having so many of these chances is indicative of what it is to be a veteran in our region. Between local, state, and federal resources, veterans can transition smoothly when they are able to navigate the various systems. And that is the role I am so privileged to serve in. I help provide the roadmap to the resources that each veteran has earned through service. My mission is to remove barriers to their success by easing their access to their benefits. By ensuring enrollment in VA healthcare services, their costs of healthcare are greatly reduced, and they have access to robust mental health care services. I'm able to help eligible veterans with through the Veteran Benefits Administration receive their disability compensation, which can thereby improve their financial well-being. And by working with our higher education partners, veterans receive all the tools they need to achieve success with their next chosen field. These combined factors are essential to creating strong foundations. We work diligently to provide this assistance because these are crucial elements that are once covered can help alleviate future crises if they arise. Working with student veterans has also been an avenue to allow many emerging leaders to innovate in their approach to building community. I and many of my colleagues believe that higher education is an outstanding environment for veterans to transition. Our students gain insights from their instructors, their peers, and that expand their understanding of what is possible and allows them to experiment in ways that the military may not have allowed. A couple of great examples, one being the Engaged Veteran Professionals networking events. These allow our student veterans the opportunity to flex those muscles and provide a professional face to those to prospective employers or prospective collaborators. The other example is an event that has been held over the last couple of years, and it's very near and dear to my heart because it developed out of many of the alumni that come from the University of Nevada, where I'm currently the president of the University of Nevada Alumni Chapter. And this event is called Operation Battleborn, the Ruck to Remember. If anyone was a participant over the last 2 years, you know how impactful this event was. It's a Ruck March, which is a movement of troops and equipment to accomplish a specific mission. In this case, the mission is to honor and remember those who've been killed overseas since 9/11. The idea came out of discussions between the University of Nevada Reno alumni and the Truckee Meadows Veterans Club, and eventually grew to involve UNLV as our partner in the South. All of these partners were essential because the goal was to ruck 7,000 dog tags over roughly 400 miles from Las Vegas to Fernley in our first year. The event also required the assistance from the Nevada Department of Veteran Services, the Reno Vet Center, and many other agencies that are present today. And we would not have been able to accomplish the mission with the amount of success because a 400-mile journey on foot with 0 major injuries is an achievement into itself. So everyone who was involved can always take a moment to give themselves that extra pat on the back. The major byproduct of the Ruck to Remember was the sense of togetherness that developed between participants. Many people who joined the effort had never met, yet carried the 85-pound payload across some of the most rural sections of our state for 10 miles at a time. It's amazing what you can learn about someone over a 3-hour hike. It was that event that led to a recent collaboration with today's next speaker, Misty Vaughan. We approached Misty with a desire to add another Ruck-style event to the Programming for Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in September of this year. It was our goal to bring the community building aspects of the Ruck to Remember to help build connections between not just veterans, but all those who had been affected by suicide. Veterans affected by suicide disproportionate to the size of our population, and we felt a new event would be an opportunity to lead the prevention effort in some way. And so the Ruck for Life was held in tandem with a film screening of The Ripple Effect, a documentary film that shows the wide effects of each individual suicide, but also the impact of individual acts of kindness and the wide-reaching impacts of a strong community that can have when we understand the value of each person's the value that each person provides. The Ruck for Life hike then circled the Truckee Meadows Community College campus on a brisk fall evening, allowing all of the participants to reflect, share, and even grieve together. So their struggle was known, and they didn't have to go through it alone. Our robust community is, as we know, never immune to tragedy. Our brothers and sisters are still lost to substance abuse, overdose, and suicide. I know a few people that I work with that are not affected by these types of loss. And that is why we will continue to work every day to make meaningful connections with our veterans and the wider community so we can move forward together as a stronger, unified nation. And now I have the great opportunity to introduce Misty. So officially introducing Misty is going to take just a second because she works really hard, has a lot to talk about. Misty became the Suicide Prevention Coordinator for the Nevada Office of Suicide Prevention in December 2005. She works together with local advisory groups, community coalitions, providing oversight and leadership to launch new suicide prevention programs in communities across Nevada. Ms. Allen is currently part of the Mayor's Challenge team to address suicide among service members, veterans, and their families. She serves on the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission with the Washoe County School District and is staffed to the committee to review suicide fatalities. Ms. Allen is currently working to bring Crisis Now and the Zero Suicide Initiative to Nevada's healthcare organizations. As the Suicide Prevention Coordinator, she facilitates the development of Nevada's Suicide Prevention Plan, consistent with the Nevada National Strategy for Suicide Prevention. Ms. Allen graduated with her master's degree in counseling from the University of Nevada, Reno. Go Wolfpack. She began her journey to prevent suicide as the coordinator for the Suicide Prevention Hotline of Nevada, which is an organization that is full of everyday heroes. Ms. Allen advocates for suicide prevention resources to help create changes for Nevada. She was also recently named one of the 50 most influential healthcare professionals in 2018 by Time Magazine. She is the proud mother of Luke and Madeline. I said that right. Madeline, who assists her with preventing suicide across the state. Welcome.
Misty.
Well, good morning, and I'm so appreciative to Donald. I have to say I graduated from McQueen High School, and they did this Lancer proud, so I think I need to invite them back after my presentation for another one of their very serious carols, right? I also have to thank Maureen for this incredible invitation to share this presentation and this very important conversation with you all. What an opportunity. I have to say I've been sweating it, knowing who's in the room, your wisdom and experience has been heavy on my heart. But as I got into the room today and saw all of the friendly faces and partners here that I didn't expect to see, I'm feeling much better. Still nervous, but I'm so grateful to all of those who have worked alongside me in this journey to prevent suicide in Nevada. And I have to also add, waking up to that incredible sunrise where our mountains were glowing pink today started my heart bursting.
Yes.
Hearing those carols, very emotional. And then seeing all of you here to hear a very difficult topic. But I started working in suicide prevention in 1996. I would not be doing this 20 years later if I didn't believe it was preventable. Absolutely is, and I'm gonna help you make this not as scary as it needs to be, okay? So thank you for showing up today and being part of this mission to protect our service members, our veterans, our enlisted new people, and their family members. That's our mission. So as a civilian, I have learned very quickly to listen and learn from all of you, Director Miller, Colonel Meacham, Donald, Troy, Felipe, and many others in the room that have worked closely with me. And Caleb Cage was one of my first teachers. So because he is not here today, we had a long conversation because I was freaking out. And this is the quote he shared with me. And I'm very grateful to him. Even this morning at 5, he's sharing his support, believing in me in this conversation with you today. And I think it speaks volumes. The willingness with which our young people are likely to serve in any war, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional as to how they perceive their veterans of earlier wars were treated and appreciated by their nation. So we have young people showing up because they believe. As, again, a civilian, I feel my duty is to help bring that journey home to be less burdensome and safer. And I hope I can meet that mission for all of you and your family members. Also, I read this recently, as of last week, General Mattis shared at another meeting, if we can create a society where respect and friendliness is the passport that we all have when we meet each other, then the military, who literally will go in harm's way for us, will not seem alien anymore. They will seem like our own brothers and sisters. So as Donald mentioned, connectedness is really what this is about. How we build connectedness within our families, our organizations, our communities, and across the state. are how we're going to make change in this. It is not much more complicated than that. And I know it can feel this way with heavy topics and some pain and loss. But I want you to come away today with some tools, hopefully some incredible questions that will alleviate some of this concern and challenge. And as we remember our beautiful pink mountains today, hope. Hope is crucial, and I do believe in it. Again, 20 years of this, I couldn't do it without hope. Uh-oh. Did I miss something? Okay.
No, it's the.
There we go. So I just wanted to, another one of my partners who is really exciting, Kim Donahue, was my guest today, and she is
Where's
doing
Kim?
some amazing things.
Where's Kim?
Kim?
Stand up.
And
so
she
they can
she
see who
is
you are.
really stretching the bounds to be here this morning, so I'm very grateful for her support. I would love her to be up here with me, but 20 minutes is very quick. So I want to honor her, and there's a couple announcements I'm going to make. But this is the information from the Nevada Department of Veteran Services, and she is working incredibly hard around suicide prevention and homelessness. And I just wanted you to look at the numbers. I know it's hard to see, but I imagine Maureen will make this available.
Yes.
Our populations are higher than the nation. And so we are seeing a lot more of this risk and challenge with suicide here in Nevada. Since 1997, our rates have actually decreased. And recent reports have said suicide rates among the nation have increased 36%. So I started in 1996. National strategies came out called the Action 99, a strategy in 2001. At that point in time, Nevada had the highest rate in the nation for decades. With all of that planning, knowledge, and strategy, the nation's rates have increased 36%. So what are we missing? I believe there's an incredible epidemic of loneliness that keeps growing, and that's where the connection comes into play. We can all build connectedness, regardless of our comfortability, our skill set, our education. So the red line is where Nevada is currently. We're at 20 deaths per 100,000. The nation is rising to meet us at 14.5. And this, Maureen's going to have to cut me down 20 minutes because I could speak for hours on this, but I just wanted to give you an idea. So we have the populations by various wards, which you are already aware of. And the reason I'm showing this slide is because it is in direct correlation to who we are losing to suicide in our country. The largest numbers are our older generation of veterans, mainly because they have the largest population. But the highest rate of suicide is our younger, newer, and enlisted military members. So the rate, again, numbers, older generation, highest rates per population are our younger. So we have battles around suicide prevention at all spectrums of the lifespan, right? That makes prevention very complex because the needs are very complex. So some of the recent data I'm not going to go into, but a new report came out, 22% they're saying per day we are losing in veterans. And doing the Nevada numbers, we have had years where 25% of all suicide deaths in Nevada were Nevada veterans. Because of partnerships and work, we have made great strides to drop that below 20%. And that's a lot of lives protected. So that's where I want to bring in hope. When we put in and implement comprehensive suicide prevention, we can stop it and slow it down. So that's where this hope comes in. I want that to be your nugget of gold. So for the United States general population, over 47,000 people took their lives in 2017, the most recent data that we have at this point in time. That's like a jetliner crashing every day of the year. That's how many lives we lose to suicide. Firearms are one of the most lethal means. We had a high rate in Nevada, but we have reduced it because of partnerships with the VA, firearm owners, and other coalitions to build access to lethal means reduction. Firearm locks and safes, medication safes, discussions about this have reduced it to 51%, about the national average, which is pretty remarkable in a high gun owning state. I do believe this is a driving part of why our rates are decreasing. A proven prevention strategy we can all be a part of. More men take their lives than females, but that is starting to change. We're seeing the demographic shift a bit because stressors are changing in our lives. And so you think 129 deaths per day, about 20% of those are veterans across the nation. Nevada, we have finally moved out of the top 10 highest rates. 11th for the second time in our history. Now, what's remarkable about this is we are 51st in everything related to healthcare, access to healthcare, spending on healthcare, and mental health care. So what is working? I believe it's these grassroots efforts, the willingness of people to have this conversation, the willingness to reach out and help those around them regardless, I do think is making a difference. Our elderly in Nevada have the highest rates, over 65. That is always the case. We have reduced that a small amount. And here in Washoe County, we have a new grant challenge that was just released to combat elder suicide through preventing loneliness. Again, building that connection in our community. So you should be seeing some amazing things there. And in 2018, we were the only state in the nation who has not increased our suicide rates. Now, across the nation, many experts will say, well, they were always the highest. They had so far to fall. Again, 51st in the nation and so many things that are protective. Something else is working, and I think it's because Nevadans are resilient, we're feisty, and we are good at building connection. So that's where the mission comes for this room. Believe that you can play an important role in this. And while they said it was all a blip, 3 years running, we have not increased our rates. So I do believe there's more to it than this, but time will tell and statistics will tell. So those teachers out there who are veterans, Guard members who have been helpful, we came together and began this in 2012 because of a report. I'm going to start here and then go back. Luana Rich, who is a veteran, developed a cutting-edge report on veteran mortality in Nevada, first in the nation. And because of this, we started getting invited to academies nationally to learn how to prevent suicide, to meet the needs of service members, veterans, and their families. This was the first report. So 2010, old data, of course. We're talking 2012 is when we started to make connections. So look where our rates start to decrease. 2013, I'll start to work with the Nevada National Guard. Colonel Meacham was there, I think, at that first training, and some others in the room. Look how high, 65 deaths per 100,000. The overall Nevada rate was 20.8. As we started implementing prevention programs with leadership support, governor support, interagency councils, our rates started to go down. Of course, what happens with a difficult subject and what starts to work, we back off. And we let our proven prevention go for whatever reasons, finances, resources, other needs, and it started to go up again. So in 2017, we were almost back up 60.5. But Kim has shared data and the state has shared data for 2018. We are back to 52 per 100,000 because we started working again diligently. Kim came on board, I will say, in 2018. Is that correct? And we started partnering again and working diligently. So it's going down again. So this has to be a paradigm shift. Change works if we're all committed to it. Forever, having these conversations has to maintain. In summary, prevention has to be a priority. It does work. We have to use data to inform our decisions, as many of you are aware. We have to get creative because, as I told you, that strategy that's been around since '99 is not working. We have to do things differently. And Nevada is very good at innovating. We are able to have these connections. And it takes practice. So one of the main things is training people on how to have this conversation, how to help those that they care about, through 1-hour trainings to 2-day trainings. To even moments like this, you can take away a lot in 20 minutes. Bless you. The CDC reports that 54% of those who died by suicide had no reported mental health concerns. We know people struggle to reach out for help because of stigma. So there might be biological, organic needs, brain chemistry issues, and other health-related issues, but there are also significant environmental issues, stressors to life. And one of those major stressors is transition, either leaving for deployment or returning home. Those transitions can be tricky. 42% of triggering events for suicide are relationship issues. That's general population, but I think it's even higher in military and veteran populations. So these are things we are aware of. They don't have to be that mystery of mental health and behavioral health concerns. Physical health issues, I will say pain, substance use, legal systems. These are things we as loved ones, colleagues, partners can be aware of and reach out to help. Okay, and it doesn't mean mental health issues. Stressors, daily stressors, environment exacerbate mental health issues. So I'm not going to go into this too much, but access to lethal means is one of the big risk factors. Feeling isolated, feeling disconnected is huge. And then you have some grief, loss, financial loss, relationship issues. Protective factors, receiving effective care, not just mental health care, but physical health care. Alleviate that pain, whatever that is, if it's mental pain, physical pain. Skills to solve problems. Coping and resiliency are very important, how we get through those difficult stressors. A thing that challenges that coping is lack of sleep, lack of diet and exercise, things we can add to our life. And I know very many military veterans and families that sleep is challenging sometimes. So pay attention. If you know someone who's really struggling with sleep due to pain, stressors, or other issues, that should be something we focus on as well. And then finally, building that connectedness, whether it's to a higher power, to the earth, to your family, your peers. One connected relationship can make all the difference in the world. So back to Kim and the Nevada Department of Veteran Services. A couple years ago, Las Vegas received a Mayor's Challenge opportunity. Kim built a team, a very diverse team coming together to address local needs in Las Vegas. They were doing such amazing work, we decided to go for it. And instead of just Reno or Sparks, we have the Truckee Meadows Mayor's Challenge team doing wonderful things. And I'll show you some of the partners down the road. But these are some of the long-term action items that relate to national strategies. Street teams to visit gun shops and gun shows and have this conversation. If families are gonna own firearms, how do we help them keep it safe? How do we know what to look for and how to help? When to get that gun out of the home maybe to keep their child safe. We also have the street teams are putting around signs. Has anyone seen those signs that say you're not alone, you're enough? And if you're having a challenge, there's a hotline there. So know that those are street team efforts. We have to have leadership involved and then that cultural awareness training. So how to help healthcare providers know how to better identify service members and veterans and family to get them the right connectedness to help. What I just was told today, I'm allowed to share because of the incredible work Nevada's doing. And truly, I'm not even sure Kim asked for this. I think the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Agency reached out to Nevada because they appreciate what we're doing. And we have a governor's challenge coming up. So I know, yay, this is huge. And the governor accepted, so that press release was out today. What that means is Misty from the Office of Suicide Prevention, which is the state office, Public and Behavioral Health, working with Kim closely, we will look at building overarching prevention efforts, policy change, legislation to support our local communities. And the rural has a rural challenge as well. So there's efforts going on in local areas specific to their veterans' needs that as a state we will now start to build and support. So way to go, Kim. I think they deserve, and Director Miller, they deserve an incredible, yeah. So that's kind of the overarching what's happening in the state. Now, here's how you can help in 5 minutes, how to help someone. The key is to show you care. There's nothing complex about a veteran, a service member, my daughter, her friend, on what might be going on for them with suicide. There's different reasons, but it's any change. Any change in behavior, appearance, or mood is worth exploring. And this is where the connectedness comes in. We're always very afraid we're gonna be judging or intrusive. That stigma and taboo are so profound. But they desperately want you to reach out to them and connect. They are feeling invisible, isolated, and I will say one of my biggest is feeling like a burden on their friends and loved ones. And if we can help them break that down and say, you are not a burden, I see you, I hear you, I care, that's half the battle of that intervention. So any change, and for those who want to know more about this, because it's not fair to drop this on you in 5 minutes, I will help get you connected to those other skills and longer trainings, or one-on-one, just having that conversation with you. So if someone is used to playing basketball with you every week and they stop coming, or you have family dinners and they stop coming, might not be suicide, but let's check out what's going on for them. Could be a health issue or pain or something else. But having that conversation early and often can be a lifesaver. And then we just listen. We don't have to have all the answers. I show you this because both of these gentlemen are named Kevin. And look how lethal he is, how close he is. This conversation saved his life. They currently both travel around the nation for suicide prevention. And the gentleman on the bridge has now a family. He just felt there was no other options. And the officer helped him see options and hope. And they are still connected as friends in this effort. I thought that it's so possible, even to the point of action, we can pull someone back from the brink by connectedness. The majority of people do not want to die. It's about pain, loss, overwhelm. And just you reaching out to them gives them hope. And why I say that, we often throw out, and I started at the Crisis Support Services in Nevada, Rochelle, and Rosie are here in the room, and probably some others. It changed my life. That place made me devoted to suicide prevention. And they're a great resource. They have the Veterans Hotline as well and texting. But sometimes for someone in that dark, deep place, it's very difficult to reach out. It's too heavy, it's too scary. So this is where I encourage everyone to learn the skills to be that reacher outer, and I just made up a sentence probably, but to offer your hand helps them feel this is okay, I can trust this person. And then they are definitely recruited to save their own lives. That first step sometimes is too difficult. But you also have that hotline. So we have to ask about suicide and ask directly. I can't go into that too much. And then we connect them to help. Whatever that help may be, it could be just enough to have the conversation and deep and meaningful, and then they go home and they're okay. Or it means connecting them to mental health services or safety for now until they are ready to build their own resiliency and resources. So some of those options, always acute crisis. If they have taken steps to harm themselves, we want to get them help immediately. So first responders, 911. The hotline, as I mentioned, 800-273-TALK is a national suicide prevention lifeline. It's been around since about 2001. Nevada was one of the first states to sign on. Go Nevada, we are innovative. We are partnering with everyone we can. And then the VA developed the Veterans Crisis Line, so option 1, press 1. And you will go to those more clinical than the typical hotline, and they are skilled in traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress, family needs, and they can also be linked directly to our lovely suicide prevention specialists like Marilyn there to immediate help if they so choose or if that family member wants. So they have options on what will keep them safest. And I also want to give some of these other resources. We have incredible mobile crisis response now where they will come out and determine and assess if you need that next step into hospitalization. Our goal is to get people help at the least invasive means. We want to decrease the trauma of seeking help. So there's many options here to guide you. The hotline will guide you as well in help seeking, so will the Office of Suicide Prevention. But I think the mobile crisis here in Reno, the most team, we have youth teams as well, and then rural immediate mental health. So no, you're not alone. I think a lot of times we're afraid to reach out because what's the next steps? It's scary. But if we know there's supports out there that work, we're more likely to take that brave step. Some of the things Donald mentioned, I want to support you in your efforts, whatever role you choose and feel comfortable with. So we're building Crisis Now models, which are community-wide efforts to improve the mental health and crisis system. That means anytime, anywhere, anyone can get help for crisis. So mobile crisis, getting help in stabilization centers instead of emergency departments. We want that least invasive way of keeping safe. Also, the hotline will be like an air traffic control, which is really exciting. They will know where the beds are open and get them there as quickly as possible so people don't have to wait 3 to 4 to 5 days in a hallway, which can happen in Nevada because we have a lot of crisis. And then finally, zero suicide you might hear about. This is working with healthcare systems to make them suicide and depression safer. This has worked in the Air Force. They reduced their suicide deaths in the 90s by 40% because it was everyone, top down, bottom up, inside out, could talk about this topic and help was available. So you'll be hearing about this if you work in healthcare. I have a colleague who's in 50 hospitals already supporting their efforts. So if you walk into the valet, they should be able to have this conversation. Your ER doc should have this conversation. And the nursing staff have already been on top of this for years. So I do believe when we get this fully implemented, our rates will keep going down. Here are some of our state team members and wonderful partners that have been making change since 2012. The Nevada National Guard and the Air Guard have been incredible. We've trained hundreds in what to look for and how to help their fellow soldiers, airmen, and it does work. And then we have a Nevada Coalition for Suicide Prevention. If this is something you want to be a part of in a bigger way, they're a statewide public-private partnership, and they're making change. And then we're going to keep building these teams. So as I mentioned, the mayor's challenges, look at all of those partners. When Kim has an event, there's at least 30 people at the table, all fighting to prevent this very challenging issue. And we're just going to keep growing. So I added Kim here because she is a great resource for you. I think I filled my time. And I hope there are some questions, because that is my favorite part of conversation, is hearing what you're concerned about or what you are succeeding in, and that back and forth discussion that Donald, I'm guessing, will participate in.
Yes.
So
Thank
for your
you
time.
so much, Misty. This was a hard topic for us to take on, and Caleb really encouraged me to look at this, and he also told me that Misty was the best person possible to give the presentation, and thank you, Donald, for introducing her and making the connections. Should not be a scary topic. This is a life-affirming topic, and I'm really pleased that you were here to participate in this, and I have a few questions to share with you. Can you start about positive policies? So what are some of the policies that we've taken on either inside of Nevada or inside the U.S. government that really are making a difference? So you gave some examples of some very specific programs, but overarching policies that governments can implement. What's working? What's not working?
Are we good?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
you should be.
Okay. So that's a very difficult conversation. As I mentioned, rates have increased 36%, and in our youth, they have increased about 90% in the past few years, just few years. So especially for young people, I'm not sure we fully have it, because their needs are changing so rapidly with the ever-changing world and social media and screens. What's working absolutely is zero suicide in crisis now. So when someone seeks help, the people that are treating them know how to have this conversation. And that is a national, and we are working on that in Nevada. So unofficially in Nevada, it's statewide, the state is committed. And we've had hospitals who were very uncomfortable with this topic. So I don't know how many of you, and you don't have to raise your hands, have had a loved one or themselves go seek help, or maybe involuntary hold. A voluntary admission looks very similar to an involuntary one, and that's not very therapeutic. We want to make this less traumatic and more therapeutic. So when you show up at a hospital, and I have spoken to nurses, I train them at the university, and they have said, we just keep them there till we can get them out. They're on a board, transport, transport, transport. So what is languishing and dying in that person seeking help as they're waiting 72 hours or more and not speaking to anyone? That is not therapeutic. So we want to make sure wherever you seek help, anytime, any place, they can handle this conversation in a very compassionate, empathetic way. So I would say that's the biggest. The reducing access to firearms or increasing means safety, proven strategy. In gun-owning homes, we, with Donald and others in the room, we do go to gun shows. And so we're having this conversation with gun owners. And they're very appreciative that we're there. We have prevention messages. We have locks, and we give away safes. And parents will walk up and say, well, my child is trained in this. They are really educated. And my first response is, then they are all the more lethal if they start to have thoughts of suicide. We have to know what to look for and how to keep them safe in that moment. And it's not forever, but having those conversations, suicide is the leading cause of death for our youth. And firearms are a big part of that, and medications as well. So that strategy of getting your home secured as much as possible is incredibly effective. Because for youth, it's not an ongoing thing. It's often a moment in time. And if we can give that time some more space, we can get them to help or intervene.
Excellent.
So from a VA standpoint, working within the Veteran Health Administration, from a policy standpoint, they've provided us a comprehensive network of different resources to provide people whatever method they want to receive counseling from. So here in Nevada, especially in the Truckee Meadows, we have the VA mental health clinic, but we also have the Reno Vet Center, which approaches counseling very differently and provides a sense of confidentiality that is very different from the VA mental health service. But then they've also allowed us, myself included, with the program I'm part of, the Veteran Integration Academic Leadership Program. It's provided me the freedom to maintain contact with veterans over many years. And a specific example, I had a veteran who's been in our sphere for a long time, and he waited 3 years to come and actually speak to me about seeking counseling from one of our social workers. But because of the type of connections they wanted to build, the relationships they allowed us to build, there was trust there, and we were constantly improving those connections with as many students and providers as we can. So from a policy standpoint, it's about providing connections among resources, among services, among agencies, and then we as individuals are providing that direct service. So it's been successful. We definitely are always trying to improve so that we don't miss those individuals that then are successful.
Thank you. Perhaps you could touch on the change in the suicide rate among veterans. Has there been a study, and do we really understand whether or not that changed when we moved from the draft system to the all-volunteer force?
Yeah. I could say that we would probably try to approach this from the sense that those individuals who've decided to volunteer for military service are taking it on willfully. We want to hope that that's the case. I know from all the vets here that are here with us that their relationship with the recruiter is probably a complex one. So we work very hard to try to honor those folks who decide to serve, as opposed to the draft, our Vietnam veterans would know this better than me. But the sense of volunteerism definitely separates how one might perceive their service or their and multiple deployments and things like that. So it's kind of understanding the difference. I could say that the Vietnam generation is the reason why we have a robust system of services now. Their experience has led them to pursue leadership roles and create the sense of community that we have. As often as I can, I thank the Vietnam veteran generation for the experience that I've had, the positive experience I've had, because it's been a quality situation, and that's pretty common among most of the veterans that I speak with on a regular basis. So again, if I could, another round of applause for our Vietnam veteran generation, please.
And I'll just add, Caleb and I did have a conversation about this. I am so far from any knowledge, but just what Donald was saying, at 1% or less is carrying the burden of our community society. Mm-hmm. So I think absolutely the burden of that and the multiple deployments, and then how they're treated coming home. We have to make sure those services are available, whatever that is, but not stigmatize either. You know, I think we assume what might be leading to suicide, and it's life stressors like impact all of us. And that's where the discussion with Caleb, his paper on heroes versus victims, I think that's a very difficult balance. And I don't know if that's the nature that has shifted. Is that ever burdensomeness?
Yeah, Caleb pointed out in his presentation that he gave to us in July that the concept of moving to an all-volunteer force meant there's less of society actually engaged in the service, and therefore the veterans come home to a smaller community than was during the draft period. Not to champion the draft, but it was somewhat more egalitarian across the country.
Maureen, may I add one thing?
Yep.
And I think because of that smaller community coming home and welcoming, there might be that sense of disconnectedness and invisibility because
Mhm.
much of the community is totally disengaged. And that's where connectedness became the anchor to this conversation. We have to build, not just in this room, but across our community and our workplaces, connectedness and welcoming them in that transition.
Excellent. Recognizing that the country right now is in a fairly severe health crisis around opioids, could you give us some insight as to the role of, you talked about people in pain, and obviously of both mental pain and physical pain can accompany somebody coming home from service. How is the role of prescription painkillers or any drugs contributing to the challenges that you have? And Misty, I'll start with you.
So this is an hour-long presentation that I'm going to give, and Marilyn could probably answer more. I had a slide I was going to put in here, but I took it out. The VA nationally did a study in 2015. Pain was the #1 cause for thoughts of suicide or suicide death. It might have even been lost to suicide. Pain. Then other health issues linked to that. So absolutely, opioids and other addictions to relieve pain is crucial. And I will say in Washoe County in 2016, our rates went up incredibly for suicide. And it's hard to know why. We've always had a little bit lower rates, second to Vegas, second to the rurals, I should say. In 2016, Dr. Rand was arrested for prescribing to thousands of people. So how many people in pain started panicking that this would become, they weren't going to have treatment for their pain? It's huge. But with treatment and chronic pain, you have stigma. You have being treated when you're seeking treatment, because now we have laws in Nevada that really monitor that, and I think they should. But the pain also impacts the sleep, as I mentioned. It impacts relationships. It impacts our ability to build relationships and work. So pain, I would say, is our #1 issue, whether emotional, physical, intellectual pain. We have to pay attention to other ways to relieve that pain.
The VA has actually been very proactive over the last few years with how we manage the prescription of pain medication. It was very common to issue pain medication on a regular basis, and now it's managed much more specific to each patient, and it's based very much on the relationship that those veterans have with their primary care physicians and our pain management specialists. So it's become a very major policy issue for us to address, so that it doesn't become so that the VA pharmacy doesn't become the source of someone's addiction or eventual substance abuse. So we as a facility and as an agency are working toward this diligently, so that it's our main priority to avoid becoming part of the problem, or maintaining ourselves as part of the problem.
Excellent. So let me let you close each with sort of your elevator speech for what we as a community can do. So Caleb's comment to me when I asked him, what can we do? He said, you can help us get the word out. But tell us as a community, as individuals, as people who care desperately about our fellow citizens here, what is it that you think is the most important contribution we can make, both as organizations and as individuals? Misty.
Oh boy, that's a tough request. So what I will ask of this incredible room, and these are difficult questions, I have the opportunity to present to the interim committee on elder and veteran healthcare. I would love to hear what your needs are. I can be the voice to that committee coming up in the near future. So I don't know if we can take a microphone down to the audience, or one-on-one, I have nowhere to go. I would really love to hear what you feel are the needs that I can be the advocate for, and then down the road, be that advocate in the legislative session. I will tell you, you mentioned one of the policies, we mandated suicide prevention for most healthcare providers. So in 2015, there was a pushback, so we got behavioral health care. In 2017, all healthcare providers were on board because veterans were in the room. You are the reason we got those bills passed, and the reason I believe our rates are holding steady is because most doctors, wherever you go, not just mental health, now have to be aware and educated in suicide prevention, and it's lowering the stigma and it's increasing skill.
I would ask that, regardless of what you've heard, come and enroll with our VA healthcare system, engage with our services. If you have in the past and are not using our services, please re-engage with us. There is a misconception that if a person enrolls, they may be drawing resources away from another patient who may be in greater need. The opposite is true. The more veterans we have within our system, the more resources our facility has to provide those folks who may be suffering with more chronic or long-term illness or may be in need of more robust mental health services. So please encourage anyone you know to come and enroll with us and ask us about any possible services that you may need or they may need, because within our community we will probably find the resource that they require.
Excellent. Thank you, Donald. And thank you to all of you. Misty and Donald, I hope Donald too, have volunteered to talk to you because I mentioned that a lot of the questions or things that you may want to say to them, you want to say in private. So please feel free to come up and chat with them or get their contact, be able to work with them. So thank you both for bringing to us a positive message of life for our community. And once again, to the audience, to all of you who are veterans, to all of you who are the family of veterans, the communities of veterans, thank you for your service and thank you for being with us today. And I wish you all the best of the holiday season.